We are counting down to the Travel and Adventure Show in Rosemont, February 1st and 2nd. We have travel expert Russell Hannon here to chat all about it. We're going to talk about the best deals, the best way to find the best experiences without spending a lot of cash. Russell, thank you so much for your time today.
Great to be here. Really excited to get into it.
I mean, let's talk a little bit about the show. This is going to be your third time there, but also giving people, the ways to experience their vacations and maybe a way they didn't, necessarily go into, but maybe not spending as much as they might be afraid that they might have to.
Well, I'm seeing a lot of headlines basically stating that travel is going to be more expensive in 2025. But reality is, with travel, you've got such a plethora of alternatives to choose from in terms of just as simply as when you travel, where you travel, and how you decide to do it. Just looking at accommodations, for example, you've got 7 or 8 different options or alternatives to hotels even. So you can really write your own ticket when you really understand all those variables that you have to choose from. Unlike other industries, travel, you can really write your own ticket by defining how you travel.
I mean, let's go ahead and start. Maybe let's go spring break. Obviously, a lot of families thinking maybe only a few specific locations, to take the kids. People kind of having that time off, but everybody kind of wants to go to those same places, has the same ideas. Tell us a little bit about maybe saving money or maybe changing our mentality and trying to book those trips.
Well, quite often a big mistake we make when planning travel, it's the first decision we make, which is when and where we travel to. In the case you just gave, it's going to the same places as everyone else at the same time. So there is a link between the number of international visitors to a destination and the price. Also, with regards to when school is out. But let's say you can only travel the third week of March when kids are out of school. There's a great tool you can use, Kayak or Google Flights. You can say, I can only travel the third week of March, and I'm willing to go from Chicago to anywhere, but only on these dates. Show me the best fares. And you get a map of the world with pins that show the price for every destination. And you can even use filters to say, I want to go to a sun destination or a romantic getaway or family vacation in your case. So you can use targeted filters that will give you a number of options to choose from around the world.
Now, what the panel there, the discussion that you're doing on Saturday is 99 ways to cut travel costs. Where maybe we overspending, where are people maybe not looking when they're trying to budget for a vacation or a getaway?
Well, the average cost of a one-week holiday for a family four is about as much as our monthly at-home cost of living. So as a rule of thumb, if you can spend like locals in places you go to, you really can stretch your travel dollar, staying in accommodations comparable to what locals would stay at. To break it down a little bit, eating, if you eat out 3 times a day, especially a family of 4, it's not going to be long before that adds up to 5 times your at-home grocery bill. So, I strive to try to keep your cost of eating at par with what you would spend at home. So buying a lot of groceries, staying in accommodations that have at the very least a little kitchenette. And even without that, I always stop into grocery stores, places that I visit. And if I don't have a fridge, or a microwave, at least I'll buy a hot meal, something I can eat there. And then things, granola bars, snacks that I can bring back to the hotel, soft drinks without paying those tourists or those vending machine fees.
Yeah, you don't realize how much you save when you go to a hotel and they have, breakfast included or a free breakfast. I mean, that could just even be a thing that you put in there, and that's maybe how you choose, because that's going to save you money, in the long run.
Oh, I love the continental breakfasts. And even you wouldn't believe how many hotels around the world have complimentary wine hour in the evening. A lot of people spend a lot of money on alcohol while traveling, and there are dozens of chains that have wine hour in the evening, and you get little pretzels and snacks and such. And some of them have the breakfast and the dinner as well. Embassy Suites, for example, I've stayed at one in Chicago, and that's just an example of really being able to leverage that, and that's included in the base fare.
Brand, I guess it also depends too on how often you're traveling, as far as like a brand loyalty either to an airline or to a hotel chain.
Yeah.
And maybe going there to kind of reap those rewards, or do you just kind of look for the best deals if you're maybe not as frequent of a traveler?
Well, yeah, I've got elite status with one airline in particular, and also with a number of chains. I've got co-branded credit cards that give me free nights and other perks, late checkouts. But I'm not blindly loyal, where if you completely discard alternative options, in favor of maybe one brand that you've got a loyalty program with or elite status, is you are doing yourself a disservice from a cost perspective in the long run. So say, and that's what a loyalty program is designed to do, is basically just stay with us, book with us, don't consider anything else. And there's great perks with that. But in the long run, you want to really consider all the other alternatives out there. And sometimes you're going to find better options, even though maybe you're foregoing some of the perks that you would get with that one program.
And I think there's probably a little bit more wiggle room with hotels, but maybe just the, a friendly smile and asking for an upgrade, asking for a breakfast, any kind of things. I mean, tell me a little bit about, does that method still work in 2025?
Yeah, well, it's worked for me a lot. I'll still never forget mentioning that it was our honeymoon, going on a trip, and just all the perks that we'd got. And we stayed at a few different hotels, and we had chocolates, personalized letters. One place we did have a small little bottle of champagne as well. So if you've got an occasion, definitely throw it out there, and you never know what you might get, where you don't expect anything, but it's always greatly appreciated when you do get those things.
As far as technology, because you talked about a kayak and Google Flights, but maybe once you're at your destination, are there apps that you use or technology we can use to help us save money? Once we're there, maybe things we didn't think about, beforehand.
Well, a couple of things. One is on my cell phone, I've got one display where I have all my travel apps. That way, when I travel, I just go to that one basically screen, and I don't have to fiddle around with my phone to find stuff. If I could only have one app on my phone, assuming I'm traveling internationally, that would be Airalo, which is basically an eSIM, or basically means no SIM app, which basically allows you to toggle between your primary carrier and an eSIM, which gives you global mobility, data, and cell phone service. So if I could only have one app, it would be that. But there's a plethora of great options to choose from. One thing that's neat is Tipster. Tipster is an app that basically recommends what is customarily tipped by service and country. So you can actually look at, in some countries, don't expect any tipping at all. If you go to Japan, for example, in certain cases, it's considered demeaning to offer a tip, and it's not appreciated. So by having that app, it gives you a ballpark in terms of what is customarily tipped, just to give you guidance.
Obviously people think of like my summer vacations, holiday travels, back home. It better to kind of start looking at, maybe holiday time or summertime now, or are there last minute deals that we're going to find? Because we heard about, the record number of people that are flying and traveling. It feels like this is going to be more competitive, and we may not find so many last minute deals, or, kind of what are you seeing for this year?
Well, you know what? I hear a lot of general rules of thumb, but to find the best option for your specific scenario, there are some online tools that'll crunch historical data specific to your desired itinerary and will tell you, using predictive analytics, the best time to book, including whether you can expect prices to drop from what they are today, and if so, when and by how much. So the leader in this field is Hopper, which 2 years ago, I think it was the most downloaded app, basically, period, coming out of the pandemic. So those tools can give you custom tailored information, best for flights. For accommodations, there's more flexibility there because there are many to choose from. Unless you're going, like, for example, if you're visiting Chicago during Lollapalooza or NASCAR races, in that case, sooner is better. But beyond that, I think that you've got a little bit more time to settle on accommodations.
As far as people coming to Chicago, obviously St. Patrick's Day is huge, Lollapalooza is huge, NASCAR is huge. Basically, every weekend in the summer, people want to come here because you get that that beautiful time here in our city. Holiday travel. Give us the tips as far as trying to book flights and maybe hotels for some of those highly coveted weekends.
Well, like, for example, during peak summer travel season, those dates that you mentioned, some alternatives that not many tourists know of. For example, thousands of college dorms all over the world are looking to offset their operating costs in the summer because they've got empty dormitories. And you can find even the college that you went to, and they're probably renting out college dorms quite often for 40% of what you would pay for hotels. So that's something to consider. I've done that in a number of cities throughout Canada and the United States. So look at college dorms. There's also an interesting site. I've used freecampsites.net. And I used this. I was in Maine. I went to LL Bean's Freeport campus, and I found a free campsite, which was nearby. When I got there, using this app. Basically, I found an RV, a number of cars, people were staying there. So I felt very safe and comfortable staying there. Certainly, you have to use your judgment and discretion on a case by case basis, but there's a lot of things that not many people are aware of.
As far as, depending on the destination, obviously no two destinations are the same. Renting
Yeah.
a car versus, Ubering everywhere, taking, public transportation. I mean, tell us a little bit about, maybe some of the places we can save money, there in the long run.
Well, one key thing to do is any city you land in, before you even decide to ride share, is every airport, including O'Hare, on their homepage has a transportation button. And when you click it, it shows you all your options to get from the airport to your end destination, including public transit, rail, shuttle buses. A lot of hotels have free shuttle buses. So when I land in any city, even I flew to Atlanta 2 weeks ago, and when I landed, I basically looked up my hotel and how to get there. And through the Atlanta airport website, it showed me there's free rail. I didn't even have to pay to get to my hotel from there. So I would have known that had I not checked their website. If you're going to Oktoberfest and you fly into Munich, for example, you might not know that there's rail for €8 that'll get you from the airport down close to the Oktoberfest grounds. So just check that. Use that as a resource, and it's on the homepage of every airport that you may fly into.
That is amazing. I am going to do that from now on. That's something I've never done before, because sometimes you just take it for granted or you're booking, somewhere else. But definitely, go ahead and check that out. That is such an amazing tip, and it's going to probably save you a ton of money going to and from to the airport.
Yeah, well, when you use Google Maps, for example, it shows you how much time it takes to get somewhere, but not the price or the fare or the itinerary, especially for public transit. So that's where it's one step superior to get that information.
And then final thing here, as far as maybe unexpected costs or splurging or whatnot, ways to save once you're actually at your destination. Obviously, sometimes you may not, you're anticipating, oh, we'll go out to maybe 2 meals a day, or we'll do this one thing. But obviously things change, and, new opportunities come by. I mean, tell us a little bit about maybe kind of staying on budget or ways that we can save maybe once we're at the destination.
Yeah, well, to find things that tourists aren't aware of, summer festivals, Christmas markets, things that locals do that tourists may not be aware of. I sign up to local weekend event newsletters in cities that I visit. And I'll sign up to these a month or two before visiting. I co-spoke on a talk that Rick Steves gave through the Travel Adventure Show about Europe, and I gave an example of Florence, going to Florence, and I just did a Google search of Florence weekend event newsletters and found one called the Florentine, signed up to it, and I'm still getting emails every Friday on what's going on there in the weekend. And you can do that at home in Chicago, but you can do that in any city that you visit. So just very great way to find out what are the events that are that locals are considering, and a lot of tourists aren't aware of those things.
And like, how has you seen the travel industry change? Because obviously, with the rise of social media, a lot of people are going more experience based, and that's kind of driving up certain areas or certain hotels or certain restaurants. But how have you seen that change the industry? Maybe the rise of social media, and maybe what travelers are expecting once they reach a particular destination.
Well, I know there's a lot of hype around AI. AI is not yet at the point where you can say, show me the best fare in the next year for a Caribbean all-inclusive flying business class for 7 nights. It's not at the level where it can do that yet, but it is very good at customizing itineraries. And I basically consider it water cooler talk, where you're using AI and it feels like you're texting with someone. So I'm going to be somewhere for these exact dates. These are the things I like to do. What would you suggest that I do? Can you put together an itinerary and consider it as water cooler talk in terms of options to consider? And one way just to experiment with these tools is just do a search of your hometown or a place that you're already familiar with and see what it spits out. And that gives you a certain level of confidence to consider for cities you aren't as familiar with.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, Russell, thank you so much for your time today. Definitely check him out. He's going to be speaking on February 1st and February 2nd, both days of the Travel Adventure Show at the Donald E. Stephens Convention Center in Rosemont. Travelshows.com for those tickets. And we will see you in Chicago very, very soon.
Hope to see you there.
Thank you.